Look ahead to Georgia Southern baseball, a 4-game road trip and a true 4-game road trip again for Georgia Southern, second one of the year rather. Georgia Southern will head up to Atlanta on Georgia Tech on Wednesday at Rush Chandler Stadium, 6 o'clock the first pitch. You can hear us at 5:30 with the Cutwater Spirits on Deck Circle, and then Georgia Southern will head out to Little Rock Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from Gary Hogan Field. We start with the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. We know what Georgia Southern was able to do in Game 4 of the season.
That game was such a long time ago.
Oh, my goodness. February 22nd seems like 7 years ago.
Georgia Southern was 0-3.
Yeah, you were 0-3. You were kind of licking your wounds a little bit after getting beat by Tennessee in those 3, and we know what Tennessee has been able to do since, and they let you know about it. But they did lose a series this weekend to Kentucky, if we hadn't pointed that out enough. But a 10-6 victory for Georgia Southern over Georgia Tech, and we had talked about it, and probably up until Game 1 of the doubleheader, that was probably the most complete game Georgia Southern has played, both offensively, defensively, and pitching.
Got the timely hitting, had 6 2-out hits, 6 2-out runs. Danny Madden actually started that night, struck out 6. Eagle pitching fanned a season-high 14, walked only 1.
Yeah.
Now, Georgia Tech did hit a couple of home runs because they've got 90 of them this year. They're top 5 in the country in numerous categories. We'll talk about Kevin Parada in a minute. I cannot wait to watch him one more time on Wednesday. But for that team to do what they did off such a tough weekend in Knoxville, Noah Ledford didn't even start that game.
And that's what I'm looking.
He didn't start the game.
I'm looking at my book now, and J.P. Tighe is hitting 4th. Noah Searcy is hitting 3rd. Dowdell's the starting DH hitting 5th.
Yeah.
Jason Swan was hitting 7th. It's crazy how much, 2 months have made?
So Led comes in, he has a pinch hit 2-run double, then has a 2-out RBI single in that 8th inning to help sew things up. But it was the fact that the Eagles scored early. They answered when Tech tied the game at 5. Thomas Higgins was really good that night out of the bullpen. They got the runs late. And then to end the 11-game skid, watch Jake Martin finish things up. And at that time, Tech was as high as 7th in the country, according to some polls. They dropped out this week. Georgia dropped out this week. But that was the game that showed everybody how good that team could be.
And this is a Georgia Tech team. They have been in and out of the top 25 for much of the season. They'll be in 1 week, out a week. In a week, out a week. We talked about it on Sunday. They dropped 3 games at Clemson, and that's a Clemson team that has gone up and down all season long.
All year.
And so it's a really good team. We talked about how good this lineup is for Georgia Tech. It's just a matter of, do you have the pitching to be able to back that lineup up? Because a lot of the games that they've lost that they tell you they shouldn't have been high-scoring affairs.
No, they do not have trouble scoring runs.
No.
They have no trouble scoring ones. Parada, second in the country with 23 homers. He's got 74 RBIs. He's having a season that's historically good for Georgia Tech, and that's saying something. That is really saying something. Kyle McCann had 23 home runs a couple of years ago, so that's what Parada has currently matched. I think he's only 2 off the single-season school record. But 1 through 9, they hurt you. Chandler Simpson's now playing second base. He went into the season as the starting shortstop, missed some time because of injury. Since he came back, he's been at second. Might be the fastest guy I've ever seen on a baseball field. If he reaches, he's probably getting at least a double or a triple out of whatever he does. They've got power in the middle with Compton, with Jenkins. Tim Borden is somebody that really wasn't in their plans. He has 14 home runs. He's split time at shortstop with Jaden Jackson. But when you've got an ERA as a team above 6, you almost have to score 10 runs per game just to give yourself a chance.
And don't know who Georgia Tech is going to be starting right now, but a lot of the options that we saw Game 4 of the season have moved into the weekend. You look at a guy like Marquise Grissom Jr., that was almost I don't want to say a tryout for him in Statesboro, but it was, okay, what can he do?
Yeah.
He's moved more to a weekend guy. And so you don't really know, but you also don't really know what the mindset for Georgia Tech is, because their schedule is a little, we'll call it quirky.
Yeah, and I don't know how it got set up the way that it did. Apparently they lost a non-conference series for this weekend, and they had to look for some way to make up for it. So they're going to get Georgia Southern Wednesday night. They don't play a weekend series now. So they're going to go and play Akron on Monday. That is a Monday scheduled game, not an emergency makeup. They'll play Kent State on Tuesday. Ironic for Danny Hall because he coached at Kent State for 6 years before getting the Tech job. The idea is to get them somewhat regional because they finish the season at Pitt Thursday through Saturday before they go into ACC tournament play. But highly irregular for them to do it that way, but they kind of had to do it on the fly, losing that series. I have no idea what they're going to do with their pitching because they've got to be ready for Pitt somehow.
Right, and it's going to be interesting to see if we see some of the even weekend starters for Georgia Tech. Because you could say, all right, Friday guy goes 2 on Wednesday, Saturday guy goes 1 on Wednesday because that's normally their bullpen day anyway.
Yeah.
You probably aren't going to want your Friday and Saturday guys at least going on Monday or Tuesday against Akron and Kent State because then you've got to turn around and it's Thursday through Saturday at Pitt.
Right.
A lot like Georgia Southern will have with UT Arlington to wrap up the regular season. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Georgia Southern sees on Wednesday. Wednesday's not quite as quick a turnaround as a Tuesday would be, but probably a little quicker than you would want. It's going to be fun to see what Danny Hall is able to do.
They've had to change their weekend rotation a number of times because of injury, because of ineffectiveness. Chance Huff was their number 1 guy. He's back at the number 3 spot now. We mentioned Grissom came out of the pen that night at J.I. Clemens. He's now the number 2 guy. The front of their rotation is John Medich, who was at Division III Rhodes College last year. He is the Friday starter for an ACC school 1 year after playing D3 ball. That's somebody we could see on Wednesday, maybe if it's only for an inning, but it's still the fact that, hey, we don't play until Monday. I'm going to throw a live pen. That's what I'm going to
do. We'll talk about this more on Wednesday, but Danny Hall might be the best recruiter of guys that nobody else wants. And I say that because he doesn't care. A lot of times you'll either go a D1 transfer or a JUCO transfer. That's what you see for most D1 programs.
That's with Little Rock we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Right.
That's what they've been done on Chris Curry for a long time.
Danny Hall does not care where you came from. If you can play ball, Danny Hall wants you. And he and James Ransby do a fantastic job of going out and recruiting. You think of a guy like Jack Rubenstein, who was at Emory and now is on their roster as a catcher.
Yep.
It's so many D2, D3 guys that have come through the Georgia Tech program, and not just as like a grad transfer or 1 year left. It's guys that have played D2, D3 for 2, maybe 3 years, come in and play 2 more years at Georgia Tech.
They're 27 and 21 right now. The RPI is 29, which for at-large purposes probably means they're comfortably in, but they are 12 and 15 in the ACC now.
Yeah.
So I would think that they would need at least a stronger finish and a decent showing in the ACC tournament. I don't know that they're going to be left out when Selection Monday comes around. But when you're sub 500 in conference play, you're kind of putting the committee in a spot. And I know that they're Georgia Tech, and I know that who they play largely determines how high that RPI is. You're in the ACC. Everybody outside of Duke is in the top 100. But having a losing conference record with 3 left, I don't know how good that is going to look on Monday, despite how good the RPI looks right now.
But Georgia Southern will head up to Rush Chandler Stadium, a 6 o'clock first pitch from downtown Atlanta, a 5:30 airtime on the Georgia Southern Sports Network with the Cutwater Spirits On Deck Circle. Going to be good to catch up with our buddy Wiley Ballard. Actually going to be back on radio on Wednesday. How about that, Wiles?
We haven't seen the park since they did all the renovations either.
That's true. Hadn't been there in 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Crazy to think. It's weird to me to think that we haven't been there in that long.
Because COVID knocked it out in 2020. The 2021 game was rained out.
That's right.
So I think they knocked down the big fence that's in front of the bullpen, so now I think we can actually see who's warming up.
Oh.
They added the Mark Teixeira Terrace. They've done a ton of work as part of all the renovations. I saw Teixeira finally got his diploma.
He left and got drafted when he was 41 hours short.
Yeah.
Came back and got his 41 hours and graduated yesterday, I think.
That's cool. But there's a lot that we're going to need to go take a look at, go survey, and hopefully Wiley can shepherd us around.
Yeah, I think we have enough people up there that can show us.
All right.
Between Wiley, Clausen, Glenn.
I didn't even think about that.
If you need to get in somewhere, Glenn Ingram is your guy. I can tell you that.
He's got the code.
Don't ask questions, but Glenn Ingram is your guy.
Just follow.
Georgia Southern will then hop on an airplane out to Little Rock, Arkansas.
One final time.
One more time. The final 3 true road games for Georgia Southern in the regular season. We'll take on the Little Rock Trojans. It's a team that has struggled this year, 21-22 overall, 9-14 in conference play. Little Rock is one of those teams we're going to talk about a little bit later on, trying to fight to stay in the Sun Belt Conference tournament discussion. 10.5 games back of Texas State, but 4 games up on Arkansas State, who sits in 12th. It's a team that has struggled a little bit. They can hit, almost hitting 300 as a team, just 295, can score runs, but the pitching has been the problem. And pitching has been a problem for Little Rock for the last couple of years. And over 6 ERA, but Hayden Arnold is somebody that pitcher of the year last year.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. When that got announced, there was some murmurs around the broadcaster wing of
the second time in 3 years
Stadium.
that was to happen, because 2019 it would have been the same way. Everybody thought that Seth Schumann was going to win it that year. But it seems that for Little Rock, the book is they've got one really good starter and one really good reliever.
Yeah.
It's been that way ever since Chris Curry got there. He's done amazing work with that program to get it where it is, because that is a difficult spot.
Yeah.
I think they'll have a chance to have some success in the Ohio Valley starting next year. But 2022, Hayden Arnold's the number 1. He's amongst the all-time record holders in their program in a number of different categories. We'll talk about him on Friday. And then the lefty Sawyer Smallwood out of the bullpen got roughed up a little bit against Coastal, but you see him at least twice every weekend. That's how frequently he gets used. You take those 2 out of their pitching staff, the team ERA is better than 750. That's how much they need them to just be serviceable.
You look at Arnold, 3.25 ERA, he's made 12 starts, 74 2/3 innings, has only walked 14, struck out 67. You're like, man, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
4-5 record.
Because he might be able to do his thing, but he's just in so many spots where the bullpen can't hold it.
And you look at Sawyer Smallwood, 2.93 ERA. He's been really good, 24 appearances, has 3 saves, 43 innings work, 14 walks, 44 strikeouts. Again, really good. 5-4 the record.
Yeah.
So 9 of their 21 wins have come from 2 guys.
You could toss Jacob Weatherly into that mix of guys that get used frequently, and I'll be very recent because they were just at Coastal last weekend. We said the Chanticleers swept the series. Weatherly threw all 3 games. That doesn't... You see guys go multiple times in a weekend. Rarely do you see guys, of course, rarely do you see guys go all 3 games. I think for Georgia Southern, the last time I can remember, Chris Brown did it in 2015 against Georgia.
Yeah.
You don't see guys all 3 games in a weekend because guys only have so much to use in that amount of time.
The pitching, obviously a struggle for Little Rock, but it's a team that can hit pretty well. You've got a number of guys, 5 over 300 average on the season between McWilliams, Dickerson, Lyons, and Hussein. It's somebody that can hit a good bit, but it's like we've talked about the last couple of years with Little Rock, very top-heavy with the lineup.
McWilliams is hit safely in 8 in a row. He's 15 for his last 30 with 4 home runs, so he's been swinging a really good bat. He had the tying home run in Game 2 before they lost in a walk-off in 10. The part of that they don't have, Noah Dickerson has missed the last 4 games. Nothing has been specified as to why he had the walk-off in the series finale against ULM. He had the RBI double off the wall in right. He did not play in any of the 4 games last week, so they had to do makeshift out in right field. They'll go lefty-heavy. Could be chop-licking time for Ty Fisher. And for somebody like Jalen Payton, for a team that doesn't walk much, that may be a good matchup for Jalen if he can stay away from the fly balls, because at Gary Hogan, the ball, it really jumps. We haven't been there in 4 years, but that ball really goes.
It's a team that strikes out a good bit, 344 times this year in 43 games, but this seems like, and we talked about it last week, how this is the part of the schedule that Georgia Southern needs to take care of business. Little Rock, 211th RPI, again, 9-14 in conference play. This is one on paper Georgia Southern should handle, but you have to go on the road, 4-game week, all on the road. You leave Wednesday, you don't get back till Sunday night, Monday morning, however you want to classify it. But you've got to handle your business.
They don't have class to worry about now. It's all about the professional baseball style with just ball from here on. Little Rock is playing its final 3 home games. Its final 3 home games as a member of the Sun Belt. Hayden Arnold is going to pitch one more time at Gary Hogan Field, so I'm sure that'll be emotional for him. They'll have their Senior Day festivities coming up on Sunday. They're going to feel a little bit more considering that they've got the number 5 right now RPI team coming out there, but they know that the only way they get into the NCAA tournament is by winning the Sun Belt Tourney here in a couple of weeks. You always caution when you go on the road. It doesn't matter to me that they're below 200 RPI. They could be number 1 RPI.
Yeah.
When you go into someone else's house, mentally, you've got to be ready to go. And it's not just for these coming games, but it's a quicker turnaround for Arlington coming to you Thursday through Saturday the next week. But these guys, they got to back up what they've done so far to make sure that that number doesn't drop too much in terms of the RPI.
And, oh, by the way, it'll be a well-rested Little Rock team because they don't have a midweek this week.
Right.
This week is their exam week out in Little Rock. So, one more thing to add to the cake.
And I know we mentioned this already. We haven't been there in 4 years. That series was abbreviated because of bad weather. Took both those games.
God, it was cold out there.
We got introduced to the butcher shop. We will absolutely be going there on Thursday night.
We going back to, what is it, Memorial Stadium?
I guess to see if they spruced it up or...
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, I guess we can try that again. Maybe Ray will be over there this time.
Oh.
Might need to see if he can come to dinner with us.
See if Josh can come too.
But the ballpark itself, it's only 305 to right. The wall is 16 feet high all around. It's a different fence. They've done some cosmetic changes to their ballpark since the last time we were there. But you will get into trouble if you give up a lot of fly balls. And not that the wind blows out there, but it's just a spot where it really carries. Fly balls can get you into trouble. And as we've talked about on these podcasts before, Gary Hogan is an all-turf infield, grass outfield. So that's something that those guys will have to work with a little bit once they get into town and practice on Thursday night.
Again, a 3-game series against the Little Rock Trojans, 7 o'clock Eastern on Friday, 5 o'clock Eastern on Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern on Sunday against the Little Rock Trojans. And we will have airtime coverage for you 30 minutes prior. Again, as every weekend inside Eagle Nation, you can send us your questions on Facebook Live. You can text us 912-274-3607. But a new way to get questions in, and you can do this, and you could text, tweet, anything, questions at any time. But you can email us at any time, GSSN, Georgia Southern Sports Network, GSSNbooth@gmail.com. Email your questions in. We will get to them on the podcast or a rain delay or whenever we get bored.
There's a chance that could be used during the game.
Absolutely. If you would like to specify that you want it in-game, specify it in-game.
Be happy to talk about anything that you'd like.
Anything and everything. Nothing is off limits. If it's too far out in left field, might have to just be an email back, but... we will get to your question.
The good thing is that with this team, there's a lot to talk about right now. Yep. There's a lot of possibilities on the horizon. We know that there's the chance that Georgia Southern could host a regional for the first time ever, but they got to hold things up. They got to take care of Little Rock. They got to take care of Arlington, present a good resume to the selection committee. Whatever happens in Montgomery happens in Montgomery. But at this point, this team has put itself in a very, very good position.